I've had a bit of a love and hate relationship with the Hunger Games franchise as a whole. But now that I just got home from an early screening of the latest prequel spin-off story in theaters this weekend, will the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes wow me? Or will it disappoint yet again? Well, let's get into it. What's up, my dude? Your friendly neighborhood Tony here, and as I do with all my reviews, I'm going to give you a bit of information about the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, who made it, what it's about, all that good stuff. Then I'll go into the things I did and did not like about the movie, the pros and cons. And finally, I'll let you know who I think this movie is for, if anyone. If that kind of thing sounds good to you and you want to keep up to speed on all the new big movies that are coming out in theaters and on streaming, make sure you subscribe. All right, so let's go ahead and get one thing out of the way real quick. If you haven't seen any of the prior Hunger Games movies, can you jump into this one first? Thankfully, yes. This movie takes place 64 years before the first Hunger Games movie. And the only real connection is that it follows a young Coriolanus Snow. He becomes the big evil president guy in the other movies, played by Donald Sutherland. But this movie follows him when he is much younger and handsomer, as he mentors and develops feelings for the female District 12 tribute during the 10th annual Hunger Games. The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is, of course, based on the book of the same name and is directed by Francis Lawrence. He directed all of the other Hunger Games movies except for the first one, and a few other movies you might know. There's Slumberland, I Am Legend, the Constantine movie with Keanu Reeves, which might be my favorite movie of his. This movie stars Tom Blyth as Snow, Rachel Zegler as Lucy Gray, which is the tribute from District 12. You've got Viola Davis, Peter Dinklage, Jason Schwartzman, Josh Rivera as Sejanus Plinth, he's Snow's best friend in the movie, and Hunter Schafer as Tigris, which is Snow's cousin. Now, they went back and forth on whether or not this movie should be split into two separate movies, kind of like what they did with Mockingjay Parts 1 and 2. They eventually decided against that since they got a lot of heat for splitting the Mockingjay movies. But was that the right move here? All right, it's pros and cons time. The biggest pro about this movie is kind of a pro of the entire franchise, really, at least in my opinion. It's the world and the world building. The concept of Panem and the Civil War and all the districts and how it all comes together, to me, is genuinely interesting. And in this movie, they dive into that probably more than any other movie in the franchise. We get to explore a little bit about what life was like during the dark times before the Hunger Games. We see what it was like during those first few Hunger Games and how the citizens reacted to them. And we get to see how they built the games up into the spectacle that we see in the prior movies. It's all really interesting. And you get to see Snow's origin, how he went from this orphan masquerading as a rich kid to the evil supreme leader we see in the other movies. There's so much to take in here. Speaking of the world building, I love how they show the separation between the people in the capital and the people in the districts. There's this real second-class citizen perspective that the capital citizens have towards the districts, and that, as horrible as it is something that we've seen time and time again in the real world. So there's an authenticity to it. It also paints this kind of desperation that even the richest people have to not fall down that social ladder. It's a whole famine mentality that makes a lot of sense in that world. Aside from that, I love the costumes and the set design in this movie, but really, I've dug those in all the Hunger Games movies. I feel like they don't get the respect they deserve for that. The school that Snow attends is also very interesting. It's like this messed up Hogwarts with nothing but Slytherins in it. There's also some solid performances in the movie. The big standout for me is Viola Davis. She absolutely chews the scenery as the head game master. She is completely insane in all the most entertaining ways. Peter Dinklage is also solid in his role, although it does feel like he's just kind of playing the same character we see him play time and time again. He's this sarcastic, rude, smart guy who's either drunk or high most of the time. But either way, he plays the role well, so it works here. Tom Blyth also does a solid job as a young President Snow, a pre-President Snow, but he's got this leading man quality to him that really works. He's charming and captivating, and I'd definitely like to see him in some other big roles going forward. Oh, I forgot. They also have this really cool post-World War II vibe to a lot of the music and to the technology of the world. If you played any of the Fallout games, there's definitely a lot of similarities with the styles here. It definitely feels like a post-atomic bomb alternate history America. Now, I did have some issues with the tone of the movie overall, but we'll get into that with the cons. But before we do, I want to let you know this video is sponsored by you. That's right, I'm just a small little channel here without any big corporate sponsors or anything like that. So just by watching the video, you're really helping me out. If you want to be super dope though and show your support in the easiest possible way, do me a solid and click that little thumbs up button below the video. And maybe leave a comment. Have you seen all the other Hunger Games movies or read the books? If so, what are your thoughts on the movies so far? You can also now join as a channel member if you want to help support me financially, or just subscribe for free if you want to keep up to speed on all the new big movies coming out. So either way, if you do, I appreciate it. All right, back to the cons. So as I mentioned before, the tone in this movie is just a bit off. It feels like they weren't sure if they should make it into a musical or just a straight movie. And the first time someone busts out into song is jarring, to say the least. Literally everyone I saw this movie with was taken aback. It just didn't fit. And it really took you out of the story. Kind of alongside that is Rachel Zegler's acting. Again, it feels like they weren't sure if it should be a musical or not, and they told her to act as if it was a musical or a stage play, but no one else got that note. There's just a difference in how you can act when there's a camera inches from your face and how you act when you have to project to a theater full of people. And I definitely think she was doing the latter. Again, it would have been fine if everyone else was doing that, you know, like West Side Story or something, but it's not. And they don't play the rest of the movie like this. So yeah, it's strange. Another issue I have is with Corio's character development. We know he ends up being this horribly evil, big bad later on in life. But here, I just feel like they don't do a good enough job making that Anakin to Darth Vader leap with him. And I guess I get it to a degree. I mean, he's one of the heroes of the story, so they can't make him completely evil by the end of the movie. But it feels like for most of the movie, he's a pretty decent dude. And by the end, he's only kind of problematic. But still, nowhere near the evil we see in the other movies. Which makes me wonder if 2 movies would have been better here. Not just because I don't think his character has developed enough, but the movie feels awkwardly paced. Without spoiling anything, there's a massive climax about an hour and a half in, but then there's another, 40 minutes left in the movie. So they continue his story, but the rest just feels rushed and out of place. And by the end, you're still not where you would want to be. Really, had they just stopped the movie right after the first climax and maybe hint towards the end that his morality might be waning, then make a second movie of his descent into becoming truly evil, that would make way more sense. It just didn't work for me here. So, who do I think The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is for? Well, I think it's pretty simple. If you're a diehard Hunger Games fan, I think there's a lot to enjoy here in this movie. They really open up the world, and I'm sure if you're a diehard fan, there's a lot you've always wanted to know about Panem and about Snow that you're gonna get here. But if you're not already a fan of the Hunger Games, I don't think this one's gonna change your mind. Of course, these are just my thoughts and opinions. Either way, if The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes sounds interesting to you, definitely check it out in theaters this weekend. If you've seen the movie already, let me know what you think in the comments below. And if not, what are your thoughts on the Hunger Games movies overall? For me, I really dig the world and the concept of it, but I do feel like the writing can be lacking sometimes. And of course, if you just want to keep up to speed on all the new big movies that are coming out in theaters and on streaming, make sure you subscribe. All right, my dude, I'll catch you in the next one. Be good.